Joining us now, NBC News senior business correspondent Christine Romans, NBC News senior White House correspondent Kelly O'Donnell, staff writer for The Atlantic, and MSNBC political analyst Ashley Parker, and writer-at-large and host of the Bulwark podcast, and MSNBC political analyst Tim Miller. Kelly, what's the deal with bringing up Biden so much?
Well, it is something we have certainly noticed. And as you point out, it's pretty much always in a disparaging way. And the president, who is in the office now, 100+ days in, and wanting to be responsible for his vision coming to pass, his Trump agenda, is always, it seems, looking to try to tie things to former President Biden, who is out of office now, off the political stage largely. And the president, at times, has been confronted about the fact that he would, in his first term, talk about the stock market as a measure of his success. He does not do that now because the stock market certainly has had some hits in the period of the tariff discussions and the uncertainty there. He now says it's only one measure. He also does not take responsibility for the fact that during his first term in office, he presided over the greatest job loss. It was connected to COVID, but the greatest job loss of any president. So he picks and chooses the stats that he thinks are reflective of what he wants to advance. And over, he is referencing former President Biden. In one of the interviews that he's doing around the 100 days, he was asked about, well, you're in charge now. You are here now. The buck stops with you. And the president sort of deflected on that. So it'll be interesting to see how long a measure, as you pointed out, he has sort of given himself another 100 days or another quarter to continue to tie it to former President Biden. But the economic facts are what they are, and the president will ultimately likely be judged by the public because that's typically what we see. Presidents bear both the good and the not so good when it comes to a grade from the public about how they are handling the economy. President Biden got a lot of flack for inflation, a lot of heat for the rising costs of everyday goods. President Trump said he could fix that, and we're waiting to see how his policies or how his actions make any measurable impact on that.
If he's not, by the way, blaming President Biden, he's saying things that aren't true about prices or about the economy. Let me play a little bit more. You referenced the ABC interview from last night. Let me play a little bit more from that.
Some people who voted for you saying, I didn't sign up for this. So how do you answer those concerns?
Well, they did sign up for it, actually, and this is what I campaigned on. I said that we've been abused by other countries at levels that nobody's ever seen before.
Hard times are ahead?
I don't think so. I think great times are ahead. Look, since I came in, gasoline is down, groceries are down, egg prices are down, many things are down, just about everything.
All right, so let's put up those prices on the screen. Average egg prices, January, $4.95. March, $6.22. Grocery prices, 0.5% up over February, 2.4% up over March in 2024. Restaurant costs also up. Grocery prices up. Electricity up. Gas prices up, but only a little bit. Still, it's significant when you're giving yourself a full tank of gas. Christine, the numbers are not on the president's side, and people will be, regardless of what he says, they will be feeling it when they take out their wallets to pay for stuff.
You know, and the president has a long history of just saying how he thinks people should feel about things, that you should feel better about eggs. A reminder, presidents don't set egg prices. They don't set oil prices. They don't set grocery prices. But it's the conditions of the economy around that. And we still have inflation that is higher than the Federal Reserve would like it to be. It's certainly not that 9% we saw a couple of years ago. It has been coming down at the end of the Biden administration and into this part of the Trump administration. But it's against a backdrop of complete disruption in a trade environment that could send prices higher. The president actually acknowledging today that prices could go higher for things like toys, or there could be fewer toys available. He actually acknowledged that, in fact, there could be some disruption.
Well, before we get into that, let me play a little bit from a toy seller who spoke to MSNBC about what they're preparing for as these tariffs lock in.
Between April 2nd and April 9th, we basically stopped all production in China, and we stopped as much shipping as we could. 19 shipments, unfortunately, got out, raising the cost for those shipments from about $15,000 in duties last year to about $1 million this year for missing it by one day.
Say that again. Say that again. That change?
Those 19 shipments would have produced a bill of about $15,000 last year to import, and this year it will be more than $1 million. And we got 36 hours notice, and it wasn't enough time to stop the shipments.
This gentleman also says the economic downturn is completely self-inflicted. This is not something that would have happened if it weren't for Donald Trump imposing these tariffs. Donald Trump, in acknowledging that some prices are going to go up, what did he say today about toys?
Well, in this 2-hour cabinet meeting in front of the cameras, he said that American children might not have the option of 30 dolls, maybe $2, and those $2 might cost $2 more. And that was the first acknowledgement I've heard from him, that there could be higher prices and shortages on the shelves. I will say, all of the sources that I talked to think that the big major retailers have piled up a lot of inventory in the past months, and they're going to weather this near term. It's the Main Street retailers and Main Street businesses like this one right here that you were just hearing from that are very concerned about what the next months hold for them.
So we have a lot of other interesting graphs, and these were some from the New York Times earlier about what Donald Trump has done over the 100 days he's been in office. The dollar has plunged. The executive orders are through the roof. The markets have fallen. We're going to put them all up. Federal funding for medical research has slowed. He went from being pretty popular to unpopular. These numbers are not the numbers when you look down on paper that you want to see when you were president of the United States. Yet, Ashley, you just sat down with the president in the Oval Office, and you say he's feeling good and he's having a good time. Where's the disconnect?
Well, part of the disconnect is that Donald Trump, as we've just discussed, repeatedly says things that aren't true. That includes, for instance, talking about his poll numbers. He talked to us about how great his poll numbers were. That's, of course, not what the actual polls show. And so Donald Trump has a lot of experience with sort of willing a reality into existence that is not accurate. He has a capacity to make himself at times believe things that are not true. But he's also deeply aware of the political reality. And one thing that was interesting was we sort of said, look, it feels like these first 100 days you were kind of doing the easy things. Is this now when things get harder? The war with Ukraine isn't over. Grocery store prices haven't come down. And this is self-serving certainly, but he put it in terms for himself in terms of his first term. And he described it to us as, he used the word softer. He said things still feel a lot softer for him than they did at the 100-day mark of his first term, which, frankly, I think is true. He's this time surrounded by a bunch of loyalists who are willing to do whatever he wants, however he wants. He knows how to wield the levers of power in a different, more aggressive way. Now, that said, some of what he's doing, such as tariffs, are producing results that may lead to devaluating dollar, fluctuating stock markets, things that his voters don't actually like.
Yeah, and I wonder, though, at what point they're going to connect that with him, or if they will. And the reason I ask that is because when we were covering President Biden and the economy, the numbers on paper were all pretty good, but people didn't feel it. They didn't feel good about the economy. Even if they were doing well, they thought their friends and their neighbors weren't doing so well. Bad vibes economy, Tim, as we kept calling it. And now when you talk to people who voted for Donald Trump, certainly some of them are saying they regret it now, but others are giving him a whole lot of leeway. They're trusting him in this war, this tariff war, this trade war, believing that it will rehome manufacturing and it will bring about a new golden age in this country. It's an emotional response, not a data-driven response. How do you untangle that as somebody who studies politics and tries to figure out where things are going next?
I'm going to do some armchair psychology for you this afternoon, Katie. And I think some of it is, it's hard for any of us to admit we are wrong about something. You know, especially something that is so deep-seated, you know, something that is part of your identity. To say that, whether it's a religion or a business or sports team or, something you chose to do with your life, the college you went to go to, it's hard to come to the terms and say, man, I messed this up. This has actually been a big mistake. Humans don't like to do that. And so I don't expect that we're going to see a ton of Trump voters in the very near term saying, oh, I really regret this. This wasn't what I signed up for. That may come if the economy continues to get worse, which a lot of economic experts expect. If the pain really starts to come and job losses come and you can't afford the toys for your kids. Let me tell you, as a parent of a 7-year-old, I think Trump's approval rating among 7-year-olds is really going down if they're going to have a fewer choice of toys at the toy store. And so, eventually this stuff is going to start to hit. It's only been 3 months. So I think that explains their psychology. And on the Trump psychology, I agree with everything Ashley said. I just add one more thing. Trump feels like he already won, right? Like Trump avoided jail. He did everything that his critics said he couldn't do. He won again. He's back in the White House. He's getting rich off his little fake coin. He's making more money than he ever would have had he been out of the office. So things are going fine for him. And while things might be not going that great in the country, I think he might be personally a little bit more immune than your typical politician to what a politician's response would be.